All right, so we're going to do the Ser versus Estar. We're going to do the Apuntes for Capítulo 2B. We're going to start with Ser versus Estar practice. And let's see what you know before we actually fill out this chart. So hopefully you got these right. Su casa es grande. Uh, yeah, if I haven't said it, you might want to go back, hit pause, fill this out. This is really, I want to see what you know. It's ridiculous for you to just copy down what I write, especially when you just have two choices. All right, so su casa es grande because I'm describing the house as being big. So it's a description, which is the C characteristic of doctor. All right, blank muy cansado. That's estoy because I am tired. That's a condition. Blink las 5 de la mañana. Las 5 means 5 o'clock, which is time. So it's son. Mis padres blank entusiasmado para la boda de mi prima. For the wedding of my cousin, excited. That means it's temporary condition. Están. Next up, somos or estamos ocupados hoy. Estamos. Again, it's a condition to be occupied or busy. It'll go away. I'll get my work done and then I won't be busy the next day. Moving on. Number 6. ¿Dónde blank tu libro está? 8.5 times out of 10 when you see just donde, not a donde and de donde, just donde, it's going to have estar with it, some form of it. 8 out of 10 times, 8.5 out of 10 times. All right, Maria Elena blank de Costa Rica. When you see de and then a place, that is always origin and always the verb ser, so es. Su hermana blank un médico. Médico is another word for doctor, which is an occupation, so it's the verb ser. Me gustan los collares blank de oro. If I'm saying I like the necklaces and they are gold, then I'm telling you what a characteristic about them, right? Or if you really want to get down to it, their origin is in a gold mine somewhere, so it's still their origin or a characteristic. That one could kind of be both. Either way, both of those things, origin and characteristic, bring us back to ser. Number 10. Hoy blank el 8 de noviembre, 8th of November, that is a date, so it's ser. Pablo blank mi hermano mayor. I'm telling you that Pablo is my older brother. This could kind of go, it's ser no matter what, but it could kind of go to characteristic almost, because I'm not, am I telling you he's my older brother and that's a description of him being older, or am I just telling you the relationship between how I know Pablo? Either way, it is the verb ser. And then blank estudiando para el examen. This is super easy. When you see ando or yendo, that's the present progressive. It's always following the verb estar. Or verb estar always gets paired with that when you're choosing between ser and estar. Now let's go ahead and fill out these notes. So, ser and estar both mean, good job, teach, to be. But they are used in different situations and have different meanings. Here's your verb chart for ser. I've got soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. I've got estoy, estás. Don't forget that accent. Está, estamos. Oops. Estamos, estáis, están. All right, so there's those verb charts. Let's fill out the chart that helps you with ser. Got doctor, D stands for date, O stands for occupation. If you want to put origin first, that's fine. Just make sure the other one says occupation. So now I've taken care of my two O's. C is characteristic. And what we'll hear later is a permanent characteristic. Or a description, but obviously I don't have another D there. T is for time, and R is for relationship. Okay. And then estar goes with place, and if you get confused on which one to use when, estar has the same number of letters in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as place does, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's one way that my Spanish 2 students decided to memorize it. So the P in place stands for position, as in encima de, debajo de, delante de, detrás. Location is, uh, it's in the building, it's in the stadium, it's at the golf course. Actual locations. It's on my desk could also be a location because that's where it is. It's at my desk, right? And then position would be on top of my desk. So those are very, very similar. A lot of them just say location, and the acronym's really LACE. Okay, the A stands for action in progress, and that is the present progressive, which is like bailando. Okay, and C stands for condition. E stands for emotion. Condition is very vague in general. Emotion and condition, in my opinion, could be mixed together if you needed to. All right, let's move on. All right, so the notes from your book. Use ser to describe permanent characteristics. About objects and people. To indicate origin. It's where you're from. Nationality, obviously where you're from. But kind of like that gold necklace came from gold, so if you want to think of it that way. And profession. Again, I like occupation better because it has the word occupy basically built into it. And if you're not actually graduated from college and have a degree and are working in the career field, then people get confused sometimes on that. So I like occupation because it's whatever occupies your time. So if you're a student, that's great. If you're a football player, great. Then that's your occupation. So you would use ser with both of those. To indicate when and where an event takes place, write an event, because that'll come into play in a few minutes, and to indicate possession. All right, use estar to describe temporary characteristics. And if you were my student last year, like all two of you, okay, let's get through this. Temporary characteristics, emotional states, or conditions. If you were one of my students last year, one of the things I told you, obviously, the best thing you can do is memorize what we're talking about here, and most importantly, the doctor in place signs would be very helpful for you to know. But the other thing I told you is, if you're up a creek and you can't remember anything, the T in estar stands for temporary, and it usually goes with temporary things. Obviously, time and date, in my opinion, are very temporary, and they actually go under estar. So, excuse me, time and date go under ser. But other than those two things, pretty much everything else that we think about, if it's temporary, like really temporary, then it goes under estar. Next one, to indicate location. To indicate progressive, excuse me, to form the progressive tense. And that's it on ser versus estar. We're going to do some more practice in a minute. Now, some adjectives have different meanings depending on which verb you use with them. So I could literally say, yo estoy aburrida, and I would be saying I'm bored. Now, if I accidentally wrote the wrong verb because I'm an idiot and I say I'm bored in Spanish class instead of listening, then yo soy aburrida means I am boring. So the joke's on you. All right, here's another example. La bailarina blank bonita. So she es bonita. That means she's kind of always pretty. It's a permanent description of who she is. If I say está bonita, now all of a sudden I'm saying the ballerina looks really pretty today. All right, so here comes our next practice. Now, if you notice in the directions, we're using the imperfect of ser or estar based on the context. All right, so here's our practices. Let's see. Blank las 7:30. That's time, so it's definitely ser. And it's las, so eran. El teatro blank abierto. Abierto means open. And if y'all didn't notice in the last chapter, when we do these past participles, they're usually with the verb estar, usually. But the theater was open, so that sounds like a temporary thing. And it is. Estaba. Los actores, and that should say actores. Ya blank ahí. So I'm saying the actors were already there. That's me telling you their location, and they're plural, so it's estaban. Todos los actores blank estudiantes. All of the actors were students. So I'm describing them as being students, which is an occupation. So it's eran. Ellos blank muy nervioso. That's a condition. And again, it's plural. If you didn't see me underline that, estaban. Okay, so ellos estaban nerviosos. All right, el escenario blank muy bonito. This one's a tricky one. Let's come right back to it. All right, number 7 is mucha gente blank sentada en el teatro. People were seated. Again, that's a past participle. So estaban, or gente is singular. So estaba. La obra, the work of art, or like the piece, the piece, was Argentinian. So I'm giving you its origin. So it's era. Blank una obra muy original. Again, I'm talking about una obra. So it's going to be singular, era or estaba. And muy original. Original is a characteristic. So era. Let me make that capitalized. And one of the things that people get confused on here is that they see, they don't know, you need to figure out what the verb ser or estar is going to be used to say. So it's always going to be saying like was or used to be or used to, but it basically go into the sentence exactly when it says was or used to and say what is it saying was or used to. Used to be at this location, well now that's a location. Used to be or was very original, characteristic, and it's going to be era. So if I'm describing it, the art as anything, it's always going to be ser. Okay. La interpretación blank muy interesante. Again, interesting. That's a characteristic. It's era. Again, yes, they gave you 3 eras in a row. Los papeles blank difíciles. Again, difícil is a description. So that's eran. And it's plural. Los papeles. So it's eran. El público blank muy entusiasmado. What does this mean again? It means excited, which is usually a. All right. So they were entusiasmado means excited, and excited is a temporary. It's an emotion, right? Or I guess an emotion. And el público is singular, so it's going to be estaba. All right, so that's it on that. Let's go to the last one. Oh, no, back up here. Okay, el escenario. So the stage, something about very pretty, right? Now, this seems like it would be a characteristic and it would be ser, but if you think about it, it's a stage. And when you have a stage that's pretty, anybody in theater will tell you, how long is it pretty? Not for very long, because it gets built, it gets used, and it gets turned into something else. So this is really a temporary thing. So estaba works best here, okay? Granted, I think you could kind of argue both ways, but really a stage is something that's pretty temporary. It's staged. It's temporary for that, whatever you need it for. Okay, so let's go to the next section. Okay, I'm going to run out of time here, so I got to talk fast. At 3:30, the meeting is, and since I'm talking about time, then it's es. And again, this said present tense, so it's soy, eres, es, somos, son, estoy, estás, estamos, están. Nuestro club está en sala 28. The reason why it's a star is because we're talking about the location of we're talking about our actual club and not where it's taking place this week. So our actual club is in room 2B. That's where you show up every week. If I said our meeting is in the room whatever, then I could say that it would be S. Now, Caras y Caretas is a club that works to accomplish plays of these kinds. The members are estudiantes, And others that are interested. Others is my subject there. Los invitados de honor son, están, estamos, and están. I'll explain this in class. I'm out of time.